Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the desk. Still Marswan, still Initialize, and still Nymara. Gentlemen, welcome back to the desk. LJL OU bringing you that LJL coverage of the 2021 Spring Playoffs match between Sengoku Gaming and V3 Esports. Gentlemen, Sengoku Gaming are at match point, and on the assumption that V3 Esports take blue side, which so far has been the winning side. We're yet to see the Sengoku red side buff really come out from them. Have both these teams played for blue side, and because Sengoku won game number one, it's just going to be a chop and change, or is there maybe some hope that something else can happen?
I think we've seen V3 challenge. It's not been a complete walk in the park for Sengoku. There's been fights, there's been options. A lot of it has been decided about whether Hollow is competitive, though. I'll note that, and whether Reiner as well is able to find the big engages. His rel has been damn sick when it's found the right engages, but there's been something to that. Also, Crash again had a quiet game, and I think generally it goes Crash getting ahead into supporting Hollow and Reiner into going for the game, and if those kind of series of events don't happen, V3 look a lot less dangerous.
My question over to you, Nymara, to get us started on this topic is, well, Sengoku Gaming haven't banned out Rel once yet. They played it in that first game, obviously got the W. And then, obviously, game number two, Reiner had the Rel. And yes, they made Rel look less good in game number three upon their victory, but it still caused them some issues. Is this something they could consider banning out,
Yes,
maybe?
absolutely. I think that I mean, I was kind of saying it in the post game of post game 2, but Reiner has really struggled when he hasn't had Rel. And I think that's just a very quick and easy way to just drop the average level of the team fights that V3 are pulling out, because that Rel enables team fights better than any other champion in the game right now. Maybe only someone like a Hecarim, which is of course a first pick and ban, 100% win rate in the LJL playoffs right now, tops that pick. But I think that that's definitely something which could be pointed towards. I think the worry is, the worry is that, of course, Thresh is such high priority between these two supports as well, and then maybe you think, okay, maybe we can pick the Thresh and beat out the Rel just to the point of pride, or do they just think it's better? And in fairness, I mean, the Aphelios Thresh lane has worked really well for them, for the side of Sengoku, historically, too. I'm just not sure it's worth giving over the Rel and then just letting, I don't get why there's such an obsession with trading the Thresh for the Rel at this point. I think that you just get rid of it from the side of Sengoku, just because you know that you're going to win the 2v2 regardless, right?
What you're saying makes absolute sense. If you think you're going to win regardless, why make it easier for your opponent when you can just make it easier for you, which means you get to win the game? I see.
I know,
Winning
right?
is good. I like winning. That's why I play games. But I don't do a lot of it at the moment because I'm pretty bad. But hey, practice makes perfect. I hear. Gentlemen, one other matchup I'd like to talk about, because we haven't actually spoken too much about it, though they've been incredibly important members in the victories and arguably defeats for both sides. Muujin and Crash, the junglers for both of these teams, have had defining performances. Obviously, Muujin absolutely popped off on that Uria in that second game, whereas Crash has very comfortably come back in this series, obviously playing that Olaf, has been working staunchly for them. It's just always been good. Obviously played that Udyr in game number one, showing that Udyr is just good regardless, because meta changed. Initially, it's coming to you first, Sarajal Jungler. What's your thoughts on this? It doesn't matter what I actually think of this, because it's pick and ban phase.
Doesn't matter what you think.
I don't what you. Yeah, it doesn't matter what you want. Can you smell what the LJL is cooking? Is what we're asking here, because we're into pick and ban. To answer your question, though, Lexi, I think that if Muujin doesn't find early advantages, ways to control the pace of the game, either by being able to carry or at least start fights on his term, V3 look a lot more lost. Well, V3 onto the blue side one more time, though, and we've seen that be the winning side thus far, I believe. Indeed, it has been, and that's just generally true across the world right now. Blue side definitely being favored. It'll be Muujin back on the Udyr, which has been a good choice for him. Bans are nothing surprising. We've seen them all before. And Sengoku Gaming, I think you're going for a Thresh. And I wonder whether it'll be a Jinx or an Aphelios to match it up.
So the Aphelios is definitely something that can lose lane. I mean, if you outrange it and you have yourself, something like a Poke Varus or a Caitlyn, Aphelios can suffer. It's gonna be the old
does
set.
play
I think this is effectively what they're doing, is saying, all right, okay, we can pick up the Aphelios next round if we want, or we can wait to see if it's a lane that we prefer to have that Jinx into. I think Nautilus is the remaining aggressive. Well, I mean, you could also pick something like Leona too, which is another big one, right?
But, I suppose.
Yes, all of these are definitely options. I think the thing about Nautilus is that you do just have that slightly better backline access. You are, as a trade-off, more likely to get caught in awkward positions and die. I think that if you do get picked, if the Aphelios is picked into you at this point, can be awkward. I actually wonder if V3 want to pick away the Jinx themselves at this point and just say, all right, well...
Is it a Kaiser again with the Nautilus?
Yes, Samira is, of course, the other option here, because this was one of the primary lanes for Samira early on into Samira's competitive history. But now you've picked a low-range AD carry into the Aphelios. So Aphelios is probably likely to win out that line again, that lane again, rather. Got to see what happens with those early hooks. Level 1, Nautilus can do strange and unusual things in 2v2s. Now we're heading into the second round of bans, and Seraphine is still yet to be picked or banned, and this it just completely perplexes me. But neither of these teams, I suppose, really favor it.
I suppose not. I mean, Ramune could pick it up here, and I wouldn't hate it, honestly, into some of these picks that are going to be running at you. It's a decent way, especially if you can time up Blade
it's a really good
as well. Samira could find herself in a lot of trouble. Of course, that Daredevil Impulse passive works out so well with Nautilus. You get the immobilize from pretty much everything in Nautilus's kit, I feel like. And she just gets to knock people up with the autos.
Well, Nautilus has the most CC of any champion in the game. Passive CC. Really? Yeah, well, he has CC on passive, Q, slow on the W, has a slow on the E, and then knock up with the ult. Every single part of his kit gives CC. No one else in the game has quite that much.
That's pretty nuts, actually.
Sengoku passing up the Seraphine themselves.
It's banned.
Picking the Victor.
It's bad. Yeah.
So, I'm not known as a very intelligent person. You may have heard otherwise, but you are wrong in this case. Gonna pick up the Victor. Of course, this is something which Ramune has found success on before. It was played in the loss, though, that Sengoku had. We might be just trading out those control mages.
Look into your scrying orb for me. Tell me what you think the pick's going to be. Maybe that scrying orb look a little like an Oblivion orb. Just out of interest.
It's going to be the Guardian's Orb from Howling Abyss, the only map that I play on. So now the Sion's been locked in. Again, Set is a really good pick here. If you pick the Set into the Sion, you just punt them back into the team, and you can play around just denying that Sion entry to the fight. Yes, Ace has played a lot of that Zoe before, but this is a sitting pick for this champion, which was played so much in 2020 by top laners. It's probably not going to be picked up. I do think that Silas is an okay pick just currently into a lot of tanks. Just pick the Set, please.
It might be an alright option there. Hovering the Kennen, which would be a big wombo combo for the
That's okay. Alright, that one's okay.
And instead they go towards... And this is also fantastic into Samira, by the way. Because Samira comes in with the wild rush, with the Inferno Trigger pull, and just gets eaten so fast.
Yeah, because the silence is a big thing too, right? You just silence them when the ult comes through. So you do have yourself a tank front line. Problem is, versus Nautilus with and against the Sion 2, there's a good chance that you get hooked into death, so unless you're in a winning game state, Cho'Gath can be vulnerable. You are going to get locked in place for a large amount of time. Thing is, once this Sion and once this Udyr start running in, or of course the Nautilus too, if you land a Q onto the backline as this Cho'Gath, you split the team very, very well. That's something which I'm going to have to be looking for from Paz.
Look, I know Samira is clearly the Beyblade, and I know she wants to let it rip, but at the same time, she gets knocked down, eats ground to get knocked up again by this Cho'Gath, and things just go real wrong.
Yeah, so got ourselves the full comps now. See them flashing up on stream. We are expecting Gango and NT to rule the early 2v2 like they did before. You do at least have the Zoe into Aphelios this time. That is a way to artificially reach the Aphelios. If you don't lose your self-control of the mid lane and the mid lane jungle 2v2, there is a chance that bubbles start flying through onto Gango. Bubbles onto anyone but Crash, who has their ultimate available, are likely to be very dangerous because, of course, you can leave it to time out and wait for the hook to come through, wait for the Sion ult to come through. Bubble into Sion has always been a pretty nasty combo. So it's not a draft decisive victory for either one of these teams. Again, I would really like Set into the side. I think it's just a really good counter to that champion right now. But Cho'Gath has been seeing rise in popularity. You have high damage backlines for both of these teams. Samira lower range than Aphelios, but the Victor trading range advantages with the Zoe whenever her ult and when the terrain favors her as well. I think this is playable from both teams, and I think that's really good because that means that we're more likely to see a competitive game 4.
First Cho'Gath game for Paz this year. Lexi in the background doing a little bit of stat research. Appreciate it, buddy. See whether it works out in game. Of course, it has been blue side victories so far. This series feels, as we said before, pretty much the way of the world at the moment with the way priorities are in draft either way. Paz, the one thing I will say is I really love, as I said before, that Cho'Gath into the Samira. She wants to go diving in on the Aphelios and on the Victor, and the moment she does, like, you can't blade well most of Cho'Gath's stuff. Like, you just end up really in trouble.
Yes,
the feast comes through and she's done. Like, you just die.
I mean, technically, his E is a projectile. I'm actually not sure if that gets blocked out by the W. Yeah. So, I mean, it's decent damage, and it's what you max first, but your silence isn't a projectile, your Q isn't a projectile. It's going to be a fight over the level 1 ward in the brush again.
Oh, you know it. I think they're going to get it. It's there. That's possibly level 2 first, actually.
It will come in maybe 1 minion earlier, but it still happens on the same wave. So it's something which I still expect Gango and NT to be contesting for. This 2v2 is going to be shit hot, shall we say. That's what we're really looking for. Seeing if Gango and NT can get away with this early game that they normally do.
Oh, even more information about that Cho'Gath. First time Paz has played it since 2018. It was a loss to Appermen in the playoffs, who was on GP at the time. So it's been 3 odd years since
he's only
Paz
3-2
has
on the
gone
champion
back
all time
to the
as well.
Cho'Gath.
Only 3-2 on the champion. Like, not really played the champion that much even in his heyday. Gango, I wonder. Oh, actually, I wonder if this is one of those matchups where actually Reiner is leveled doubly first and he just doesn't want to go for the hook, or whether it was just used at that point. It is still the cold start from Gango and NT. They hit level 2 first. Luckily missed that the effect, the whatever the Calibrum Q is called. I remember the Severum. I can't remember the Calibrum. But
yeah, like, I know a lot of the Aphelios Q names. Obviously, like Binding Eclipse is one of my favorite ability names of all time, which is the Graviton Q. Obviously, you know, like there's the Sentinel turret is obviously Crescendo, but Calibrum Q I just don't remember. I'll have a quick look now, I suppose. While all that's going on, we've got no action. I'll go see if I can investigate what that one's called.
I've actually been lied to. Apparently, Paz is 6-2 all time on the champion. From what I had seen on another stats website, it was actually 3-2. However, that is still a champion, so a little bit more played. Hook lands. Gango getting out with the Lantern, has the Guardian too. So important against these bursty combos. They are pushing up though. Muujin is on the bot side. Is level 4 to level 2 from the junglers to that dual lane. Wait for the next hook cooldown.
Indeed, they are. Q for Caliban.
Oh, the backstep.
Moonshot, which he might need to use. The onslaught is popped now. Reiner's in trouble. The Binding Eclipse comes through as well. And Infernum burning. There's the heal. Paz needs to get out as well, though. He's so low. Big hook, but it's not onto as many people as you want. Crashed out. No, sorry, Enti has to flash away. And everybody's alive some way, somehow. Ace has got a flash, but won't get anybody. And somehow, some way, nobody dies.
No one dies. Proactive teleports from everyone. Muujin should not be here, although he's going to get the stun.
Ooh. Oh, that's Crash who has to flash out as well. The bubble lands, and now that's surely first blood. The battle star comes through, and Ace gets what he needed.
Why is Ramune hanging topside? I guess he has no mana. That's probably why. Either way, really surprised that Ramune didn't come down, at least try and add a Q into the equation. Just unfortunate stuff from the side of Sengoku. How did this start off? Got ourselves the backstep of Gango onto the hook, and that's when things get dangerous. Reiner doesn't get the aftershock through the first half of his HP bar, and then, of course, the Gravitum starts coming out. Paz, kind of in the middle of nowhere, only level 3, not even at the same level as Muujin. I think it's a very good choice for Enti to tank that hook for the rest of his team, not chance it on anything else. But Ace is already down there. And then we come up into the back end of this play. He's already picked up the flash. So many summoners used in and about that fight. Ace picks himself up the flash, picks himself another one because that flash away came from the LF. Don't you know you can't flash away from the Zoe? It's very annoying, Crash.
What it did cost, though, was I think Ace seeded 2 waves to turret there. He's lost a lot of CS off that, so the kill evens that up somewhat, but it means the gold really isn't all that different right now. It's 100 apart.
That it is. So at least we have Ace down just a little bit. But this is still now a death onto the Olaf early, and we saw what happened the last time that happens, and having a Zoe this time backing up the Udyr means maybe that when you're running forward on the man, bear, pig, you can start landing those bubbles a little more effectively.
I've got another bit of a quick trivia question for you here. Do you know what the Infernum Q is called?
No. I was thinking of a pun, but I can't even think of that.
Yeah. It's a dusk wave is what it's called. And speaking of dusk, it might be the dusk of this game, potentially. Crash and Muujin just dueling it out over the Grump, which I believe Crash secured.
Oh, Finish Stance hurts, man.
Just like a little bit. Yeah, Crash might actually not be in a spot to bother because Rhino can flash over here. He's going to Hex Flash in, and I think Crash needs to find his way away. He's going to fall down, and early on, this Udyr, again, Muujin, just finding stuff early on. 1-0-1 will get the Dragon as well. Tried to blast Cone away, but no way to come over. The Hex Flash comes through, and Crash getting ganged up on his jungle.
This is such a miscommunication. Look, they had bot Prio, but now they've lost their jungler. They can't fight around this.
I can't potentially. There's a lot of damage back though. The Crescendum firing with the Onslaught as well, but that Blade Whirl does its job. Gango will not have enough damage. Hollow gets some more damage down. 1-0-1 for the Samira. It's another couple of kills, and V3 are off to the races in this game.
So let me get this straight. So Crash is playing around bot priority, and then gets collapsed on when Rhino just leaves lane for free, even though the wave is being pushed in. Then the jungler's dead. Gango and Enti stay back for another couple of seconds, and then get punished again. So both of them get punished for their miscommunication with each other. And Sengoku now staring down at 4-0 kill disadvantage. Very unfortunate for them.
Well, the Aphelios has been stymied in lane for once thus far. That is big news. And of course, a lot of it again is off Muujin on this Udyr in this early game, making things happen. It happened in V3's victory in Game 2. It's happening again here in Game 4. Reminder, Sengoku win this game, and it's lights out for V3. There are no more second chances. This is it. This is the way to start it, though.
It is. So the caveat for this game compared to the other game, which they ended up crushing at the early game, that was of course their victory, is that you don't end up having the rel to turn around your team fights for you. You still have to play into a very strong team fight AD carry. It's not the Jinx, it's the Aphelios, but Gango's Aphelios has been one hell of a carry in the past. Crash trying to take a Scuttle Crab once again. He's probably going to get burst out by Ace. Actually, no, he's just leashing the Scuttle for him right now.
Yeah, does manage to secure that one. Nice sidestep as well. The Paddle Star does the work for him. Feeling pretty happy about that one. And of course, Samira doing all right here, but still a little ways down in the CS, even despite getting some assistance down here. And it's been a party in bot a lot. It's this Udyr, though, that's going to be the terror right now. So much agency with the early kills. Can make things happen in most lanes, especially if Ace can start landing bubbles like that.
He can, and yeah, that one hurts. He has himself the Verdant Barrier, does Ramnate. I'm just tired, because this is 11.5. I'm trying to remember when the nerfs actually came in for that item. Might have been 11.6, actually. But... yeah, so in that case, actually, Verdant Barrier, very good item on this patch, and something that, of course, Victor are very happy to see on.
Yeah, we're a few patches ahead on live at this point, so probably a month or so ago makes sense to me, at least in the back of my mind. So maybe we're wrong, but I feel like 11.5 was still pretty okay.
Yeah, it was, because it got reduced from basically a maximum of 15 magic resist for the item down to 9 on 11.6. So still playing with better version of it. It's also one of the reasons that of course, Cassidy was so strong on this patch that you could build up Seekers even into AD matchups and have just a huge amount of armor for a component item just by farming it out and be able to brawl with the best of them. So got an early Dragon going over to Sengoku. The bot lane party has not, the Dragon leaves and takes an early exit from this. Gramino, please don't back again in an awkward position. The Herald was picked up for V3, of course. It was a Dragon for Baron. A Herald trade.
Dragon for Baron. Wow, that's impressive at 9 minutes
the world record. Earliest Dragon ever taken in Baron ever taken in competitive play. No, it is only 9.5 minutes in. Gonna be the Herald picked up. Ramne taking this time to reset. Not on the cannon wave. Might end up getting shoved into tower and losing just 1 minute. Actually, with this timing, looks like he's going to get everything there. So well played from Ramne to reset at the correct time off of a cannon wave. Often a bit of a tricky one to time that one. And Sengoku managed to stabilize things just a moment.
Maybe if they'd use the magic, that means you don't need Oblivion Orb to get putrefied.
You will live to rue the day you joked about my build path knowledge. I mean, who even knows enchanter items anyway, right? Who would actually want to play enchanters, right?
Yeah, that's a good question, I suppose. I seem to remember you playing a fair amount of Janna in the bot lane, so you know.
I played that once upon a time. Then I realized that I could still play Ari in the support role, and then everything was fine after that point. Just play
Imperial
Glacial.
Mandate Ari support. Here we go.
Nah, this was before the new item changes. Now I have to go Everfrost again. Ramonade looking to get bubbled. Well, looking to dodge the bubble.
Does avoid the bubble. He does a fairly good job. The gravity well comes down as well, and will be fine. Nice little attempt there from V3, but they don't land with the CC required. Gango and Enti might now be the next port of call. I think Enti's going to need to put that lantern down.
Might want that lantern, dude.
Yeah, fortunately they do have a dark passage and are out of dodge. No dragon to play for, of course, because the Cloud Drake went over to crash a minute or so ago. So a little way before that becomes a feasible thing to be playing around again.
And I think a big
We're
thing
kind of left
about,
with a relatively even state.
Big thing about the difference between this game and the last game where Fellow started really firing all cylinders is that because of the pressure that Mugen has had over Crash, and then also the roaming in between this bot river and just the bot lane party, it's meant that Gango and Enti have not been able to get plates, right? They've got a cull cashed in. That's great, awesome, but it's not the same as getting all of those things. Ignite now committed from Ace. Just playing against Zoe, man, free summoners. They're a lot of damage. Just really high base damage on Ignite, of course.
Does indeed, and that's after the Chaos Storm is popped, but it does give wave control over. Mugen, you'll note, has Herald in inventory and a couple minutes to play around it before the plates fall, so can look to get something from that. Was thinking about doing so bot, but Sengoku had managed to re-secure vision for their bot lane, which has helped things out. Gango's still, farming well, got himself a CS advantage, but it's not the massive leads we come to expect from the Aphelios Thresh lanes here in the LJL and from the likes of Gango and Enti in particular. And it's left this game, as we said, pretty close. 1,000 or so gold is the lead for V3, and they're going to have to continue to see whether they can leverage that into more of a mid-game advantage. Next Drake in about 2 minutes.
2 minutes, and at that point, we will have, of course, Paz on the Cho'Gath with Feast available. Just use it on a minion, gets themselves a bit of that extra max HP to their name. Kogog similarly stacking up with that Soul Furnace though on the W. Herald summon bot lane while Gango and Enti are out of lane. This will be a guaranteed charge in. It will be plates over to Hollow and Ryan, of course, Mugen taking some share of that too, and they'll be able to reset just before the dragon comes out. That's going to be 3 total, bumping up their gold lead to just about 1.7k. Cog on the other side of the map, taking advantage of Paz's reset to take a plate there too. So V3 taking a lot of structure gold in this early phase of the game, just before that important second dragon spawn.
And Sengoku, for once, have got no plates in trade, which is a bit of an unusual one considering how the way they've played the lane. And
it's just because
they did hang around in this bot lane bush to see whether Gango would hang around. Oh, they've cancelled it.
No!
Gango's in trouble. He's done. He is so dead. Gone for his, food for the fishes, or at least for Nautilus. Samira gets the kill there after the flash in from Mugen, gets a bear slap, and I don't think Enti wants to be here. He'll need to think about flashing himself. He's using the minions to block best he can, waiting to see whether he can time out that dredge line, but instead he's going to fall likely as well. Has got himself a lantern and can try and turn it around with Crash, but won't be able to right now. V3 get the kill. Fortunately, Gango will still be alive for when the Infernal Dragon spawn, and we'll still have both summoners, but it might cost them first tower at the bottom.
That's a doozy. Just not quite patient enough, not quite connected enough with Enti, and it feels like a lot of the story about the way this bot lane has played out for Sengoku is just miscommunication between various members. First between Crash and his bot lane, and then between his bot lane and him back again after he died. It does actually look like that pick onto Gango is going to mean there aren't enough ultimates available to fight around this dragon. So while you do get another plate, you do get another kill onto Gango, you lose out on that second dragon, and it is a mountain soul once more. You have tanks on this roster, you have people that want to be poking out and bursting down, so a mountain soul for the side of Sengoku will be very important. And V3 have seeded away 2 early dragons towards that end.
It's one of those old talking points for us as a duo as well, though. It's a Mountain Rift for Zoe as well, though, which is always good news. More walls to fire your bubbles over, more walls to portal jump over and poke from relative safety. So Ace can definitely use and abuse the additional terrain if he's given the chance. Gold lead is in favor of V3, but Sengoku have got the dragon stacking. 5 kills to 0, though, is fairly big. And you can see there the gold lead. It's finally a bit of a lead for Hollow, of all people.
Sam, we have ourselves the Pacific Ring top lane. We've got the Shanghai Scrolls, Cho'Gath Skid versus Mecha Scion. We've completely missed these references all game so far.
You know, I've actually seen Pacific Rim.
Neither have I. I've never actually been a massive kaiju fan, but that doesn't mean I can't reference it.
Sorry, I thought you were going to give me some really in-depth stuff. There, no, I've not seen it either, which is brilliant. So that really tickled me. But Herald number 2 going to be started up by Sengoku Gaming. I believe it's Herald number 2 anyway.
It is, because the first one was using the bot side to get those initial plays done.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to say, I'm actually not a massive kaiju fan. Didn't even watch the Godzilla movie, which came out, of course, to Hollywood. Of course, it's been a long time staple of Japanese cinema. But I mean, I've kind of watched a couple of mech anime, and but I never really stopped by the actual movie franchises for it. So maybe I'll have to re-educate myself on that one. But until then, you'll have to deal with just a name shout out. And Ramanai is going to get shouted out by Mugen. No, actually, no, he's not.
But Crash is going to come around the bot lane now that he knows where Mugen is, and Reiner and Hollow need to be aware there is a dive on the cards right now. Teleport available from Paz, but it's also from Cog, which can make this a little bit dangerous. Reiner now has spotted Crash, but here is Ace on the roam. Crash taken pretty low, but has a lantern, so not too much more to find. As I believe was that a bubble landing on?
It wasn't landing, but it was fired.
Okay.
He might have been. I don't think he got dragged across that with the lantern. Ramanai once again kind of just left to pick up the pieces of the wave in the mid lane, but he's going to become slowly more and more relevant as Ace face plants that bubble into the wall. Oh, he's cancelled.
Interrupting on the dark passage. It's so damn good. Gango tries to get something more, but Hollow and Reiner, that's what you call a hook. The dredge line drags him under. Ramanai in mid as well, gonna fall, and it's 3 quick kills over to V3 in stylish fashion. Sorry, I made that 4 because Crash died as well.
So
V3, what was that?
It was a 2x2v2. It was a 2v2 between the mid jungle and then the bot lane. Gango and NC are just not playing to the state of this game. They're not insanely far ahead this time. They don't have the items to outplay everything, and Reiner gets the lantern cancel. One of the easier ones to do if you aim it at the Thresh, but because of actually those angles, managed to get a really hard angle on that one. What happens here? It's just, I mean, it's a level down Olaf trying to use his Ragnarok to burst them out, but just completely misjudges his own defensive stats. Once you use that Ragnarok, you lose all your defensive stats and you can get burst out. Ramanai making a similar mistake to what Crash did earlier. You can't flash away from a Zoe. Zoe is not a champion who plays the same way and plays by the regular rules of League of Legends. If you use summoners, often you're giving value over to the enemy champion. If you think you're using things defensively, actually you're just putting yourself further into the dumpster. Ramanai has failed to really get involved with this early game so far, and in that 2v2, well, things got a little bit awkward. We've got another 2v2 replay to come in, a double replay.
He feels safe.
He feels safe, but
so
then
good.
He just unfortunately does not time things out correctly. Doesn't have quite enough patience. Doesn't end up timing out that of course the hook could have come through at any point. Either way, Reiner wins the mind game and wins the 2v2.
I mean, that's the reason the Thresh is there. They know that's the reason you pick the Thresh with your fellow, to be able to do things like that, and they get the punish, and suddenly that gold lead, which was notable but not crazy, is now up to nearly 6,000, more like 7,000 on it. Well, no.
NC.
That's a big one. NT now in a spot. Bother does have flash, so it's probably going to be just fine. About 30 seconds till this mountain, Drake, but I don't think Sengoku can really contest in any real state right now. Ace going to be looking over the wall here, just hopping forwards, being obnoxious. Decent death sentence onto the spot. As Crash has to pop the Ragnarok there. He goes unstoppable, but it's about all she wrote. And the big gold lead, the big map advantage, will lead V3 to be able to go over and claim their third turret, possibly this mountain Drake as well. And the 1v1
side. I mean, that's another turret down for the side of Sengoku in that top lane. They've lost their top lane out of turret. I mean, I look at this, I look at the draft and I say, yeah, no, this is playable. They have lanes they can win around. But this seems like an absolute tilt fest from Sengoku after they had match point. V3 crushing this bot side. Sengoku failing to communicate between their bot lane and the jungler on multiple times. Ramanai failing to get involved with the map. Ace finding a way on the opposite side of that to really just turn the screws and just say, look, I'm here, I'm going to be throwing bubbles, and holding the, the bot side of the map accountable, because the top lane just frankly doesn't matter at this point, and Sengoku have not responded appropriately.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And this is all off Crash, kind of getting a little bit caught out early on, partly because he felt he was safe in his own jungle with some priority, but nice Hex Flash from Reiner and the like kind of started the snowball from there. Then there was the various plays, that double between the 2v2s in mid, jungle, and bot were pretty important for V3, who now find themselves in a very, very commanding position in this game. 4-0-1, 2 items on Samira, 2-0-1, and an item and a half for this Zoe as well. Like, Sengoku scale well, don't get me wrong, but they're going to have to wait for a second item, really, if they want to contest an 85% chance from Blitzcrank himself. Feels pretty fair, honestly, all things said and done.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And given that, like we were saying, Mountain Rift for a Zoe, that's probably not showing up in the stats there. I'm actually not sure if they take that into account. Versus an Aphelios, who is going to find it increasingly more difficult to walk up to objectives, even with the Thresh protecting them, because they are behind in towers, in terms of vision, and now in terms of gold too, of course. So I look at this now, and Gango is not going to have the same ease of teamfight execution like he did in that Jinx game on the Aphelios game. Ramna going to get hit with a bubble. This is exactly what you're buying in for when you have this kind of lead on a Zoe. Zoe just, with the Horizon focus as well and the Sork boots, is going to absolutely shred even Crash. Even, well, everyone on this map now, even Paz probably can't stand and fight against the Zoe.
Could get a little bit tricky. Thus far, though, Ramane surviving okay there. Didn't get chunked because of some various body blocking and the like. So, still holding on a Sengoku. They're on vision right now on this attempted flank. And there's the sweeper out to realize that they are
wondering if
the
Moonlight Varus would come through once again for the big old root. Crash, you can't walk
right.
up like that.
Oh, forces the flash out of Rhino, which is not the worst thing. Cog now here as well as Paz, but that mid lane turret finally falls. I don't think he actually needed to pop the Ragnarok there because he avoided the hook.
If you get hit by the hook and pop it later, though, you don't get to move back into position. When it's airborne effects, you will go through the full duration of that CC. Of course, with other CC, you can just cleanse it with the Ragnarok effectively. Now they have to wait for that cooldown to come back up. They are getting siege to high heck right now. And Hollow continually getting more gold, and Gango not having as much access because he has to stand by his support or a number of other people in lanes. He's losing out on XP too.
And this Aphelios has got to get through 2 tank items on Nudir and Zion. It's a completed locket for Nautilus. He's already pretty tanky. It's like, he's got himself a last whisper second, but he's an item and a half Aphelios versus all those really accelerated tank stats, plus a Mountain Drake on top for those additional percentage stats. Like, that's tough.
That it is. I mean, now not getting themselves early soul point as well to maybe be able to stall out the game. That's really unfortunate for Sengoku. Crash is walking to 4 people. He has Ragnarok, he has Flash, but this is just... Crash is having to play like this because they can't get vision any other way. But he's blown his ult so many times now that you look at this Baron, you look at everything else, and Sengoku don't have options. Look at this just dearth of vision that they have in their red side jungle.
It is pretty much dark from the red buff onwards. The Baron has been started by V3. Sengoku are around. Remember, there is no Ragnarok on Crash, but there is a Flash. This would be potentially stealable, especially if Paz can get over. You've got a Cho'Gath, and there is a Feast. There is the Smite from Crash. That's the term I'm looking for. V3 now turning to see if they can get off the Baron, because they've got to remember they can't flip this. It would be a disaster. Enti gets chunked, throws down the box, needs to think about flashing out, but doesn't have it available until just now.
Oh,
that's a big Moonlight Vigil.
No, it gets blocked.
It doesn't do much damage.
No, it's Windwalled.
Windwall by the Bladewell. Fantastic stuff. But now the turnaround damage is fairly big. And Bojan over the side is doing some work, but Paz pretty low. Does have Feast, but doesn't really want to use it quite yet. Hollow also going real low, but Crash goes down. Hollow hopping forward. The Samira finally gets feasted down, and Cho'Gath gets 2. That's pretty damn big. And the health bars are low for V3, so I don't think they can go through to the Baron. That's something. It's a 3 for 2, but I think if you're Sengoku, you kind of have to take it.
Can we talk about how pivotal that Bladewell was? That would have literally been a 4-man Infernum ultimate, the Mega Infernum bomb. That could have turned that entire fight. As it stands, though, Hollow comes out tops on the Battle of the AD carries in this game. Gango has been so dominant so far. This is really not one to put in the favor of him in this series. How does this start? Starts again with V3 having a lot of people over the wall, not having everyone to bring to bear at the start of this fight, and having to take the long way around. And he puts up the box, and of course, Cogcog doesn't get the best ult. And look at this. Bladewell stops actually wouldn't have actually been a 4-man Moonlight Vigil. It would have been a 5-man spread across with the Infernum. That could have changed the entire fate of this series. Sengoku's so far behind in this fight. At least Paz gets to come through with a really big ultimate onto Samira to shut them down and just walks up and nom. Would have, and I mean, I look at that. If he'd actually managed to get an EQ, got combo off again with a Wild Rush, that would have been a dead Cho'Gath with the amount of items they had at that point. 12-2 in kills, hell of a lot of gold down. Sengoku struggling to find the fights which works, and Hollow making it even harder for that end to meet.
But you can still see however fed you get as Samira, this Cho'Gath could still make your life real short. And got to be a little bit wary. And that probably saved the Baron, honestly. If Hollow had survived, if Samira was still alive, you could definitely have gone for that. You had enough members around, even with the low health bar, to think about doing that. But that is an important kill. It's an important stall. Paz saving the game a little there, perhaps. It's still a massive advantage. 2v3 up. Over 8,000 gold. They've got 2 dragons to their name now as well. They believe they picked that second one up during the break, replay. Yeah. So they are getting increasingly difficult to contest. But Sengoku do have options to scale if they can continue to hold on to maybe at least if they can make taking the Baron as increasingly a chore. Then they have got some options. Because again, between the Cho'Gath and the Olaf, if V3 can't get the appropriate pick, then it's very risky to go for that Baron with the amount of secure that Sengoku can offer in the steal.
Importantly, Ramune not building towards the Seraphs, doesn't have that huge item completion, has a Banshees, that's important, but the approach to this objective is so difficult. Paz is teleporting in and immediately blows Ramune's Banshee's Veil because he stands and gets Ludens with it. So good job there, guys. But another bubble lands and just the poke keeps coming through. Paz is tanky, yes. Crash is sadly not.
Reiner gone a little bit farther, took the hook. I don't think he necessarily wanted to. Up into the air goes Crash, but he's got a Sterex and he's got a Ragnarok. Mugen on the side looking for more, but that is a sleep onto Cho'Gath, stopping him from getting too much, but that's a big turnaround. 1-for-1 thus far. Support for mid laner, though, as Ramune is dead. Gango just takes all the damage in the world. Ace gets another. It's going to be a big flay back, and Mugen might just fall with the Ignite, but will survive for now. The Dark Passage is there. Paz is dead, and with a 3-for-1 fight, V3 finally get the picks they needed. The Battle Stars hit like monster trucks right now.
Monster trucks, monsters in the top lane. Cogcog survives. Paz fortunately loses out in that Kaiju battle, and Ace is still hunting. He's trying to land the bubble, and it does land!
Oh, boy. Yep, that's another one. Ace just hitting them all this game. 16-3 is the kill score, and V3 might just have found themselves the fight that will secure themselves the game. They have got all the gold, all the kills, and now they'll be getting a Baron on top of it as well. The big purple worm will offer all its buffs up and available, and Sengoku Gaming are pretty much out of options here.
It's the blue side buff. It just seems like blue team has come out to the winning draft in somehow, some way, even though they have been so unorthodox in this series, not really prioritizing that Seraphine, going towards different bot lane arrangements and everything. Gango has to flash early, partly because Cog, partly because of that hook, just knew that he had to flash over that way. Mugen gets himself on a flank, and then this corralling, even into the choke point, against the Chaos Storm, which is over 3 people. And of course, that Infernum ultimate coming through as well didn't quite spread the way they wanted it to. I think that was actually blocked out maybe again by Hollow. I'm trying to remember if you can block out the secondary effect of it. Either way, Sengoku found several points of choke point fights. They haven't managed to capitalize on it, haven't managed to find nearly enough. NT, as the observer highlights, has just blown his flash. That'll be important to maybe try and see if NT does end up dying because he can't disengage after dropping a box or something like that. Sengoku getting siege completely out of this, and Ramune just doesn't do enough damage.
Yeah, he tried to do something, Paz just takes no damage. He's still got the Lantern, so will survive. NT also taken to inches of HP by what looks like a Horizon Focus empowered Q from Ace. The Paddle Stars definitely living up to the star part of their name, because they are hitting like nuclear fusion reactors right now. Absolutely devastating, and I don't think you want to get atomized by that quite yet. Ramane has got the healing in his back up. There is a world where Paz gets to flash, feast someone important, but not if Enti continually gets chunked out like that. That'll be Cog going pretty low in the front line. He's getting chunked out, goes down. That's a big fight. The Moonlight Vigil comes out as well as a kill in the advantage of Sengoku right now. In goes Hollow though, and that is a Blade Whirl and an Infernum trigger. And 2 for Samira. Make that 3 for Samira. She can look for more. That's a big hook, but she's not going to fall. And it's Muujin, of course, who is the one who body blocked that one for his AD carry. Ramane and Enti are the only ones left standing, and V3 Esports, you wondered before this series, you wondered off camera whether it was going to be one of those ones where teams are just better on blue side, and blue side wins 4 games in a row. V3 made themselves back to the even points. It's Silver Scrapes time.
We're going to 5. Of course we are. How could it go any other way? Well, this is what we've ended up buying ourselves into. I mean, more caring about his mouth than he is about the game. V3 wander off stage, and they'll have to prepare for this very last draft.
A crash and a burn, courtesy of an Inferno trigger, will offer a much-needed win for V3 Esports. 2-2 is the series. We'll break this game down at an analyst desk in a minute or two. Don't you guys go anywhere. Game 5 is coming up real soon.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the desk. Must One, Initialize, and Nymera still here, still bringing it to you. And we are 2 for 2 upon Silver Scrapes, but it's not time for that quite yet, because we've still got a break to have where we can come back in and be Silver Scrapes hype. Gentlemen, we need to break down this game number 4. And this was very remnant when I was watching it of the first game of this series, but just on the flip side, obviously Sengoku Gaming came out to a huge lead, looked very decisive, looked like it could have been a perfect game at points for V3 this one around, and Sengoku Gaming looked like they were just on the back foot from minute 1, Nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, we know that Gango and NT have a really dominant laning phase on these two champions. This lane combo is a thing which they've done. And that started to happen. I mean, we saw them push into turrets, saw them getting chunks down, but there was a really crucial moment where we just saw that V3 were not allowing this to go uncontested. It wasn't just going to be an isolated 2v2 in the bot side. Tons of teleports came down. Pressure from mid and jungle also stymieing this push that they had. They didn't get access to turret plays. They didn't get to push in and chunk out where they could. Every move they made was being heavily watched by V3.
And those moves that they made, every breath they took, they were being watched, to fully use your analogy. I mean, no, let's just talk
appropriately creepy.
Absolutely. I mean, let's talk about those 4 kills, because it was almost creepy how the double-double happened on both mid and bot side initialize.
Yep, I kind of called it out, and I'm feeling pretty pleased with this one. I said, look, Crash gets ahead into getting Hollow and Reiner ahead, and that's kind of what happened. Aphelios held down for Gango for once, and then this play happens where it's just a pair of outplays. Crash goes in onto what he thinks is a lone ace. It's not. They go for a 2v2, and he just doesn't have the resists on the Olaf. He's already behind, and he just gets slaughtered, and it's left, then leaves Ramine in a 1 versus 2, and he is left for dead. In the bot side, it's a little bit rougher. Gango thinks he's safe because he has the Thresh Lantern, and Reiner hits the perfect hook to pull the Aphelios out of the Dark Passage. He goes down, NT follows shortly after. It's 4 quick kills. That leads into 2 turrets. That leads into a dragon. And at that point, what was a decent lead for V3 blows open as something that's near enough uncontestable.
And this just turns into a full map win. Nightmare, coming over to you. We were speaking during the break, and you were very impressed with Ace and Muujin in this thing, and what they did to Ramine specifically.
Exactly, because there is basically there's a two-factor to this, right? First off, I mean, the very first kills we saw in the game was like Crash getting invaded on, and then kind of then bot lane getting punished, and that was kind of a bit awkward. We saw a bit of a disconnect. But when you're playing with a disconnect, with a pressure jungler versus a pressure jungler, it just allows mid laners to just to really get involved in the game and tip that matchup. Ramine and Crash got out-muscled in this game by Ace and Muujin. Ace on the Zoe didn't work out earlier in the series rather. But between him and Muujin, they just completely took Ramine out of the equation. This Vex Victor just didn't do anything this game. There were a couple of choke point fights later into the game. You thought, oh, Chaos Storm, maybe that'll do something. It was far too late at that point. The map had been snowballed a bit against them, particularly given that bot lane was so far behind, because Muujin, because Ace, continually contesting for Scuttlecrabs, continually looking to land bubbles and then try and force away flashes and everything like that. They dumpstered this mid-jungle 2v2.
Yeah, and then it moved on to really forcing a lot of leads out of this. It allowed, even though Sengoku got the first 2 dragons, it allowed V3 to secure multiple mountain drakes on this map. Any fight that Sengoku Gaming tried to index in, they really struggled in. And this was a game where it felt like Sengoku Gaming just had no way back in initialize.
Eventually, yeah, like the idea was sound, right? Cho'Gath into Spirit is just wonderful, and you saw it the one time. Hollow uses the Wild Rush and just like, yeah, well, that'll be a feast for you then. And they managed to stall at least to a certain extent, because Baron is difficult to secure if you don't get a pick first, because there's still a Cho'Gath, there's still an Olaf, they combine and suddenly your Baron disappears, even if you're trying to flip it, right? It's never a 50-50 at that point. But the leads on so many members, on Ace, who was hitting with the Mountain Rift as well, which was empowering, as I mentioned, with the Horizon focus super early, with the front line just not taking damage, and then this Samira that was accelerated to a very fast early lead. It was tough, and once again, it's blue side, right? It's the blue side power right now, undefeated right now in this series, and I think we might be seeing Sengoku head back to blue side for game 5, I wonder.
Yes.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Game number 4 is now in the books, gentlemen, and we are now upon Silver Scrapes. We can now do the noises of zoo and get ready for it. But we will be playing our break music in a moment, and when we come back, ladies and gentlemen, game number 5 will be here, Silver Scrapes, and we'll find out who will be facing against Rascal Jester in round number 3. Don't go anywhere.